Okay, so are you ready for this?
I am. Lay it on me.
All right, so get this. You guys sent us a YouTube transcript
Mm.
about learning English.
Okay.
And, my first thought was like, oh, are we really going to do English 101 here? But
Yeah.
this is way more than just like basic vocabulary. This is
Yeah.
really about how people learn languages through conversation
Interesting.
and what it tells us about all those like unspoken cultural rules that we kind of all live by.
Okay, I like it.
So are you ready to decode this with me?
Absolutely. I'm fascinated by how much we can actually glean from everyday sources like this.
Right.
And this transcript isn't just about, how to master grammar. It's a glimpse into how cultures actually shape our communication styles, our values, even our sense of humor.
Right. And like the coolest thing is that even the video itself uses this conversational format.
Yeah.
It's like they're simulating real life interactions, which
Yeah.
a lot of language experts say that's really the best way to learn.
Right. Like you can only get so far, by memorizing verb conjugations from a textbook.
Right.
But truly mastering a language means really understanding the nuances of how people actually speak it.
Mm-hmm.
And this method, it's often called conversational learning,
Okay.
really helps you to pick up on those things like cultural idioms, those unspoken cues, even humor.
Oh, absolutely.
Have you ever tried to explain a joke from your culture to someone from a completely different background?
Oh, yeah.
It's almost impossible.
Oh, tell me about it. I once tried to explain an American football idiom to a British friend of mine,
Okay.
and it was like we were speaking two different languages.
Exactly. And this transcript actually dives into those subtle cultural differences beautifully with that whole village life versus city life debate
Yeah.
they have going on.
Right.
Seems like a very simple conversation starter,
Mm-hmm.
right? But it subtly hints at these darker cultural values. Like, is one lifestyle seen as inherently better than the other,
Right.
depending on, your background, where you come from?
Yeah, and it's so interesting how they use the phrase pros and cons.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like such a small detail,
Yes.
but it kind of speaks volumes about how their culture values
Sure.
weighing those different perspectives.
Absolutely. It suggests a culture that encourages debate and, looking at both sides of the coin.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of different cultural perspectives, this theme of individual versus collective lifestyles comes up again when they talk about pets.
Oh, yes. That part was really interesting to me.
Yeah.
I mean, just the fact that they have such different opinions on even having pets,
Right.
especially inside the house,
Yeah.
it could say a lot about their cultural norms around animals.
Absolutely.
Like, do they see pets as family members
Yeah.
or more as just animals?
That's such a good point.
Mm.
It makes you wonder, are pets as common or as readily accepted in every culture?
Right.
And it might even go deeper than that, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Some cultures prioritize personal space and individual comfort,
Mm.
while others might place a higher value on the companionship and the shared experience of having a pet.
Right.
So this seemingly simple chat
Mm.
about furry friends
Right.
is really opening a can of worms,
It is.
culturally speaking.
Yeah, it's like we're getting a crash course in cultural anthropology
Right.
just by listening to them chat about their pets.
And that's what I love about this type of deep dive,
Yes.
is finding those unexpected insights in these everyday conversations.
Right. Okay, so we've talked about conversational learning
Mhm.
and how it can reveal these like hidden cultural dimensions.
Yeah.
But what about the language itself?
Okay.
I mean, the transcript mentions some pretty universal experiences like dealing with a breakup.
Sure.
So does how we talk about those experiences also vary from culture to culture?
That's a great question and a perfect segue into our next point.
Okay.
The transcript touches on this universality of heartbreak.
Mm-hmm.
But what I find particularly interesting is how it hints at the potential cultural differences in coping mechanisms and support systems.
Oh, okay.
It's a bit like that fish out of water feeling.
Right. Right.
Like we all know the experience is universal,
Yeah.
but how you navigate it
Right.
can be vastly different
Right.
depending on your background.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, those cultural differences really shape those, even our most like personal experiences, like
Wow.
going through a breakup.
That's such a great point.
Ah.
And, it also highlights this importance of cultural sensitivity
Mm-hmm.
and not just in how we speak, but
Oh, no.
also in how we offer support to other people.
Right.
Right. Like, for example, in some cultures, suggesting therapy or professional help,
Mm-hmm.
that's seen as a sign of caring.
Yeah.
While in other cultures, that might be perceived as intrusive or even stigmatizing.
Right. It's like a good reminder that there's not like a one-size-fits-all approach
Right.
when it comes to something as personal as a breakup.
Exactly. And speaking of like personal growth,
Yeah, yeah.
the transcript also talks about the benefits of recording yourself speaking English.
Which, may seem like a small thing, but they frame it as like a real confidence booster,
Okay.
and I have to say I still cringe like when I hear my own voice recorded.
Oh, I totally get it. It can be a bit jarring at first,
It's so weird.
but pushing past that initial discomfort can be incredibly valuable.
Right.
And not just for language learning,
Yeah.
but really for self-improvement in general.
Mm-hmm.
You know, think about it this way. Recording yourself allows you to become more self-aware,
Okay.
to identify those areas where you can improve,
Right.
whether it's your pronunciation, your grammar, or even just your confidence in expressing yourself.
Right.
It's a form of active reflection that can really accelerate your progress.
It's true. It's like that saying, practice makes perfect.
Right.
But with like a twist, it's
Yeah.
not just about practicing blindly. It's about practicing with intention,
Absolutely.
listening back to yourself,
Yeah.
making those small adjustments.
Right. And that idea of intentional practice,
Mm-hmm.
it's so crucial in language learning.
Right.
And one technique that comes to mind is called shadowing.
Oh, yeah, I think I've heard about that.
Have you?
Yeah, maybe just like remind me how that works again.
Okay, so shadowing basically involves listening to a native speaker
Mm-hmm.
and trying to imitate their pronunciation and intonation as closely as possible.
Okay.
So it's like you're their shadow echoing their every word.
Oh, okay.
It's surprisingly challenging,
Oh, I bet.
but it is incredibly effective for developing fluency and natural-sounding speech.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's kind of like learning a musical instrument,
Right.
Like you can study the notes on paper all day, but to really master it,
Hmm.
you need to listen to the music and try to recreate it yourself.
What's so fascinating is that shadowing not only helps with your pronunciation,
Right.
but it also attunes your ear to the subtle nuances of the language.
Okay.
You start to pick up on those things that are really hard to teach explicitly,
Right.
like the rhythm, the stress patterns,
Mm.
the way that native speakers naturally link words together.
Yeah, it's like you're training your ear to hear like the music of the language,
Precisely.
not just those individual notes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the best part is you can shadow anything.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Podcasts, audiobooks,
Cool.
even YouTube videos like the one in our transcript.
Oh, that's great.
Speaking of YouTube, this might be a good time to touch on another conversational learning technique,
Okay, what's that?
language exchange.
Oh, yeah. I've heard about those.
Have you?
Yeah, they sound a little intimidating,
Okay.
but also like really effective.
Well, they're really pretty simple.
Sure.
So you just find a partner who speaks the language you want to learn
Mm-hmm.
and who wants to learn your native language.
Okay.
So then you just dedicate, a certain amount of time to speaking each other's languages,
Mm-hmm.
taking turns to practice and provide feedback to each other.
Right.
It's a fantastic way to really immerse yourself in the culture
Cool.
and to pick up on those real-life expressions that you wouldn't necessarily find in a textbook.
Yeah, it's like you have like a built-in conversation partner that can
Uh,
give you instant feedback or
Exactly.
like cultural insights.
And it's a great way to make new friends.
That's true.
From different cultures.
Yeah, and that brings us back to the heart of what this whole deep dive is about.
It does.
Exploring that intersection of language and culture
Right.
and like human connection.
Oh, yes.
So we've covered a lot of ground here,
We have.
from the power of conversational learning
Yeah.
and specific techniques like shadowing and language exchange
Yeah.
to those subtle ways our cultures really do shape our communication styles,
Mhm.
our values, and even our approaches to those universal experiences
Right.
like heartbreak.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It is. Wow, we really did go deep on this
I
one.
know.
Who knew a simple YouTube transcript about learning English could spark such a rich and thought-provoking conversation?
Right.
It really is amazing how much we can learn from just a simple YouTube transcript,
It is.
It's like we've peeled back these layers of language, and then like underneath we find this whole world of cultural insights and human experiences.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And it's a good reminder that learning a language is about so much more than just memorizing, words and grammar rules.
Right.
It's about connecting with other cultures on this deeper level and understanding their perspectives and appreciating the, richness and diversity of human expression.
Absolutely. And something else that really struck me during this deep dive was that whole debate they had about village life versus city life,
Oh, yeah.
it got me thinking about like my own ideal balance. Like
Right.
we all have this like internal tug of war going on,
Yeah.
between wanting to be part of a close-knit community,
Yeah.
but also like craving the excitement and opportunities of a city.
It's a tension that has fascinated like philosophers and anthropologists for centuries.
Really?
Oh, yeah. And it's not just a geographical choice, is it?
Right.
It's really about like our values, our priorities,
Mhm.
and how we define our place in the world.
Exactly. And what I find so fascinating is how those values can even be reflected in the smallest details of our lives.
Absolutely.
Like whether we prefer having pets
Sure.
or how we approach a breakup.
Yeah. It's like those cultural differences are like woven into the very fabric of our being,
Right.
shaping our perceptions, our behaviors,
Mm.
even our unconscious biases.
Wow. When you put it that way, it really makes you realize how interconnected all of it is.
It is.
Language, culture, and human experience.
Yeah, and it kind of underscores the importance of approaching these conversations with curiosity,
Mm.
with openness and a willingness to challenge our own assumptions.
That's a good point. Well, this deep dive has definitely given us a lot to think about.
It has.
Not just about language learning, but like you said, cultural understanding,
Right.
personal growth, and all of those like universal experiences that really connect us all.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of a deep dive, isn't it?
It is. It's an invitation to explore, to question, and to emerge with this fresh perspective on the world around us.
I love that. So for you listening, we'll leave you with this. Remember that conversation for the transcript about village life versus city life? We challenge you to think about that for yourself. What does your ideal balance look like? How does that reflect your own values and priorities? Let us know what you discover.